Hello and welcome to another week of Obscura Undead. I'm Azy.
I'm Maus.
And this week we're reviewing something for those of you out there who might be more into the ethereal wave, folk, indie post-punk kind of bent, and that is the debut album from Arkansas band, US, if you're not familiar with US geography, Dover Lights, with their self-titled debut, Dover Lights, released on Big Horse Records on January 15th.
So Dover Lights, they are a duo from the Ozark Mountains, and their sound has been compared to music from 1980s, late 1970s, English cult acts, and it mixes futuristic elements and folk noir. So,
yeah, and they also cite influences of 60s psychedelic folk.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can hear it. And Maus and I have been trying to come up with descriptors for the album, and we just want to get them out of the way, like, right ahead of time, because we debated this for a long time. And we honestly feel like the best way to describe this is, like, post-punk Americana.
Yes, Americana.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it.
We don't know how else to describe it.
So the band is mixing both the classic elements of folk and acoustic guitar with some like gliding atmospheric synth sounds.
And some really dirty synth sounds too.
But it kind of gives it a feeling of like floating in space or going for driving long distances, you know, so.
I think that's part of the reason why I do enjoy this album is because I listen to a lot of music like this when I'm like going on long drives and I've kind of burned out what I want to listen to for like goth and death rock and post-punk, and then I'm like, you know what, I want something in the same vein but brought way down.
Yeah. And it's very mellow. It is a deeply personal album. It's like lyrical poetry to drifting guitars.
Yeah, if we're talking Americana and folk, one big thing in like those kind of traditions outside of just how they sound is this like big storytelling sort of bent. Like if you're not familiar with those genres, like think of maybe like And Also the Trees, who talks very much about storytelling that's like bound by place. And Dover Lights lyrics are that kind of storytelling. So on tracks like oh shoot, I can't pronounce the word.
Karen Toohill?
Yeah, Karen Toohill. You know, and Memory Dissolves, they reference like places local to them in the music video for Memory Dissolve. It's Arkansas Nuclear 1, I'm pretty sure. I spent a lot of time Google mapping like, the places in these songs.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a nerd.
I also get that feel of like somebody with a guitar sitting around a campfire just in open desert, you know, singing these tunes.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, we just got done listening to the church. Let's play some Dover Lights.
And not just the church, but there's also like American rock mixed in. Because you know you've got guitars, so at times it's like hypnotic and psychedelic, but like that reminds me of like Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd, you know, those kind of sounds.
Parts that seriously reminded me of Bob Seger, and I'm about to out myself here. Please don't hate on me for it, but I kind of low-key like really enjoy Bob Seger.
No, Bob Seger's great. He's great. And some of the other names I wrote down, I was like, should I tell everybody I actually listen to this stuff on the side?
I mean, go on.
There is, no. I wasn't gonna. There was a 70s resurgence in the mid-90s for singer-songwriters with a lot of acoustic music. So Bruce Springsteen made a comeback. There was John Bon Jovi, Suzanne Vega, Tracy Chapman, that kind of thing. And these remind me of those types of songs, like storytelling songs. And I mentioned Bon Jovi because one of the songs directly sounds like it just reminded me of the Dead or Alive track.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but I love that sound. So.
And I don't even want to say that it's a guilty pleasure. We can like what we fucking like, right?
We like what we like, whatever. So
yeah. So if you also have a soft spot, you're going to enjoy this album. And it starts off with this track, Prisoners, which This one, I don't think is so much localized in where they're from. It kind of, I'm going to pull up the lyrics real quick, but it talks about, like, I don't know, it feels like a song about PTSD.
I think it is. And it's got a military story to it.
Yeah.
It starts out as almost like a spoken word piece to a guitar piece of art.
Right. And all the tracks on this album are different in the sort of elements and vibes that they use, but this one has this like really, I thought it was a guitar at first, but I think it's actually just a really like kind of like dirty, distorted sounding synth.
I think it's guitar. I think it's guitar that sounds like synth, and there's places where they're intermixed and you can't tell if it's actually a guitar or a synth. I guess that's part of their dual role of sounding futuristic and classic at the same time.
Right.
This particular song also, about 4 minutes in, the guitars start drifting off. And you've got this experimental, like unscripted jam session going on. And it gets discordant at times. Like it sounds like the guitarist just like walked off and played another song. But overall, the song has this like otherworldly vibe. Like it doesn't need to follow any kind of standard song structure.
Right. And I want to say that the song sets the tone for the album, but there isn't really a tone setting for this album because I said
exactly, in my notes, I said exactly that.
Like all relatively different. It's kind of like listening to David Bowie.
Very much like David Bowie.
You never know what you're gonna get.
You've got like the beautiful crooning, and then it gets artsy at times, and sometimes he's just telling you a story, and you're just like, oh. I know it's not a good sentence.
Track 3 though is one of their singles, Memory Dissolves. I mean, unless you want to talk about Terrors of the Night.
Terrors of the Night, just real quick, it's like a lullaby tune to me. It's like a simple plodding drum, but the lyrics, it's like this reverse lullaby where he's singing for his loved one to stay with him before falling asleep because the night terrors.
Right. I just realized we haven't told you who's in this band.
No?
No, we didn't mention them by name. It is Daniel Brinker and Andy Moore, others who are credited, and we're for I think the majority of the biz on this album. Why the fuck do I say the biz? But we're going to be interviewing them later, so I think that's why we forgot, because we're kind of, after we get done recording this, we're going to go record that. And that's always kind of nerve-wracking. But it's also Ben Smith, percussion and drums, and Warren Dickey on bouzouki.
Yeah, and Daniel Brinker is the lyricist and composer.
And the vocalist.
Everything. And Andy Moore is the producer and arranger of the music.
And he does guitars. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to Memory Dissolves. Sorry, that was a terrible transition. That was a terrible segue. But Memory Dissolves, I actually ended up writing a music video review premiere. I don't know. I wrote something about it. It doesn't matter what the hell it's called. But because there was just something about this track that was so nostalgic. I loved the sort of like bleak romanticism that the lyrics tell and talk about. And it's very like, like nuclear age and just a lot of like loss. And then you watch the music video and it's all of this not found footage, but recovered like home movies from like 15 years ago or so. Mm-hmm. That were taped on VHS that have been digitized and then cut together to make this music video. And it's just dumb shit of like teenagers like going out and like, let's film shit going down the road. Oh, hey, look, we're at a convenience store. And it just hits me right in like, I was a teenager at that time in like the mid 2000s, and that was exactly what I would go do. I would just go drive for fucking forever and be sad. I don't know.
The track Blue Fox.
Maus is skipping over the instrumental track, Cartoon Hill 1, to...
Oh! I can't believe I did that.
To Blue Fox.
Yes, there was an instrumental track, Current Hill, and 1, and there was a second one later on, which is like the rest of the song, but it was a nice acoustic break in between, no vocals.
Yeah.
Blue Fox is also acoustic, great guitar work. It stays with like a mellow, like folktale kind of feel. super reverb, like Tom Waits style vocals.
I'm not sure I would say Tom Waits style, because my husband listens to a lot of Tom Waits, and that's very cigarette-y.
No, not like that. I don't know. Maybe more Nick Cave. I don't.
There were parts of this album that did give me Nick Cave vibes, because Nick Cave is a lot of shit. Not shit isn't garbage, but like stuff, you know.
Just because you couldn't find the words for stuff.
Yes.
There's a track. I'm moving on. The track "Three Women" to me is like one of the most accessible on the album. I would say so. And this one feels like it deals with like end of the Cold War, fall of the Berlin Wall sort of era, like talking about going past the border, being stopped at the border into the Rhineland, and languages changing, and it's got this indie alternative styling to it, a nice airy melody. I really liked this one a lot, but the rest of the album doesn't sound like this.
No, and the rest of the album doesn't sound like the next track, Howling Man, which you can tell has some really experimental, early industrial kind of sounds in it. It just gets as noisy as this album gets.
It reminded me of Bowie, Brian Eno,
yes,
elements in the synths.
Yes.
Less present is the guitar, unless the guitars are fashioned to sound like the synths. Not sure.
No, speaking to the band, they had described this track as being kind of like their industrial track, and in context for the rest of the album, yes, I'll yeah.
This one like kind of unfolds poetically, a lot like a Pink Floyd song to me.
Yeah, that's a great description. Like, yeah, they tell stories kind of like that.
Just like Prisoners, the last full minute is like there's like experimental guitar and vocal wailing, and so it to me, like, I don't really care for this kind of thing when I'm listening to a record, but I love this when I'm watching a band live. You know, when they're
when they get into it, right?
They get into it and they go all out, and then they go off script, and you can tell that they're putting their love into those last final notes before they're about to walk off stage.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of put yourself in that mindset rather than listening to a digital version of an album.
That's so sweet, Maus, because you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall, it did remind me a lot of more Bowie. And Desolate Illinois. I'm gonna say that this one's been sticking with me the most. This one is the catchy, like, alternative folk driving tune that reminded me of like some Bon Jovi songs. And I like Bon Jovi, but it gave me that feeling of driving across the country, just looking at open space, and this is when I was like, oh my God, this is Americana. This is what that is, like
that's the vibe I got off of Memory Dissolves.
Oh, see, I didn't get that from Memory Dissolves because the first image I saw was the nuclear power plants, and that to me is civilization. But Desolate Illinois gave me this vibe of desolation. There's nothing out there if you're not in the city. So it was opposite themes to me. But this one actually made me want to go sleep outside, which I'm a city girl. I have never done that.
I would never have expected you to ever say that for exactly that.
I would never do that. I probably would never do that. But I mean, I can still imagine, I could still put myself in that place and be that person wearing the hat, enjoying the trees or the open space. One of the lyrics is, every night I fall in love with the wind and the rain. You're outside in the elements and being perfectly at home. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So Stone, song Stone reminded me of Dead Can Dance a little bit. Drums were kind of marchy drums.
Yeah. That song kind of didn't hit me so much because it was short in between Car into Hill 2.
I think it was just a palate cleanser. Really. It was more of a palate cleanser. It was like, all right, let's get you out of that. We're going on to something else now.
And I honestly thought that I don't know how to pronounce that word. I think it's Irish. I don't know.
It's Carrauntoohil, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right either. I'm sure I pronounced it like an American, but Carrauntoohil is the tallest mountain in Ireland.
Huh. See, that's great.
This was the closing track. It was like this closing folk tune that was beautiful.
Yeah, no, that's why I thought it was like the best way to end the album. It made me just so chill and mellow. And then when it started up with Prisoners again, I was like, wait, do I want to be here?
But if you listen to the whole song, there is a moment where the song stops for like 30 seconds, like as if it's the end of the tape. But then it keeps going. And then there's like 3 minutes of like just this neo-folk like jam happening at the very end. And then it ends. But it made me nostalgic for the times when you would pick up like an album and there would be a minute of hidden music at the end of a CD or a tape.
And this song is just an encapsulation of the entire album. Sorry to... I kind of cut you off, Maus, because I don't want to say this before I forget.
Oh, no, I didn't have anything else to say.
Oh, okay. So this song is an encapsulation of the entire album because the record is dedicated to someone that Daniel Brinker lost a few years back. So the album is dedicated to this individual, but in particular, this final track deals directly with that loss.
The song is the saddest one on the. I didn't know that about it, but I was going to mention that it was a very sad song, and I couldn't put my finger on why.
That's why. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I know for me this album was kind of an unexpected like.
Unexpected like, yes, and we have a lot of friends that are deeply into like acoustic folk, whatever Ritual Howls is. That like Americana,
dusty post-punk. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
I have no idea. I don't want to go make it. Oh, I love it.
And while I find it interesting that it's steeped in Americana, they cite older British acts as their inspirations.
Yeah, so, like Tears for Fears, Jesus and the Mary Chain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I thought was neat.
Oh, yeah, the Church again.
The Church.
Which I feel like you can hear that in a lot of the album, just sort of in the vocals and the way the notes go. But you know, what if?
If you get a chance, go check out the music videos. There should be one for Prisoners and another one for Memory Dissolves. As well, there are you could pick up the singles for Memory Dissolves and 3 Women on Bandcamp,
along with the album.
Along with the album.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're also on the album, so just get the album. But thank you for joining us on this romp today. We hope you enjoyed the album. Tell us what you think of it. You know, listen to it. Tell us what you think of it. And stay tuned for the interview that we're doing with the band, which should come out later this week because this releases on Wednesday, and that'll release in 2 days on Friday. For us, we're doing it in like 20 minutes, but you know, whatevs. Again, whatevs. And next week, we will actually be reviewing something more on the beaten path. I think it's more of a Maus vibe than an Azy vibe, but we are reviewing Jay Draper and the Subterraneans.
Oh my gosh!
Which has more kind of crossover with that 90s ethereal. They have violin, I believe, and viola work done by the individual who did that for Faith in the Muse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll talk more about it next week. It's a new wave vibe. You guys will love it, maybe. I don't know. And then, you know, maybe we'll get into some more death rock because I have a band from Guadalajara that I really fucking want to review.
Neat. All right.
Yeah.
How about it?
As always, at the end of our videos, we like to thank our Patreon supporters who keep this channel going. I mean, everyone who subs this channel is also awesome, but our Patreon supporters, especially awesome. Same with our Twitch supporters. Actually, you're all awesome. I can't pick. But we deeply appreciate those of you who choose to support us in more dollar-based ways because it really does help keep the show going. And it helps us, you know, continue having access to a lot of the resources that we use to produce these episodes for you. Maus, you want to lead us out with like what we got going on?
On Wednesdays on Twitch, we have Obscura Undead FM, OUFM. That's every week at 8 p.m. And on Fridays on Twitch, we also have our OUVC, which is our Obscura Undead Virtual Club. That starts around 7 o'clock and goes the entire night. And we always have multiple DJs and sometimes guest DJs that join us.
Yep, and then occasionally on Thursdays we have, we were calling it Obscura Undead Subculture Shock, but due to overlap with another quarantine podcast that started with that name, we are rebranding to Tales from the Goth Side. Yeah, it's basically just goth talk with special guests. So we've had Mistress McCutcheon, we've had Akiko from Azy, we've had Scary Lady Sarah, Andy Harriman, a whole bunch of really awesome people. And that's it. So, goodbye. We love you.
This ignorance of consciousness, despair.